Hello and welcome. Today we are talking about the Wolf A1 upper, specifically converting it into more of a T91 clone and more specifically the gas block. That's what we're talking about today. So as you can see, I have converted it to a more military style one with the accessory rail and the bayonet lug, and I have got that installed. So let's talk about the process of doing that. On paper, this is a pretty simple process, so I'll do an ADD version of exactly what I did, and then at the end I'll talk about some of the details and additional things that I ran into. So what you're going to need is a Wolf A1 upper, obviously, a replacement gas block from T91 Tactical, specifically the military style for the Wolf barrel, because there's more than one, so get that one. You will also, I would advise getting a barrel nut removal tool from T91 because it's non-standard and you probably will need to remove the barrel from the upper receiver, so go ahead and do that. You will also need a 3mm and a 2.2mm drill bit, as well as a number 2 taper reamer. I'll put a link to the one I use below. So once you have all those parts assembled, you're going to need access to a few tools, specifically a hydraulic press, a drill press, and probably a vise. Once you have everything in the right place with the right tools, you can begin this job. So first, field strip the upper, take everything you can off of it. Probably a good idea to go ahead and just wrench off the barrel nut and so you can remove the barrel from the upper receiver and punch out the pin that is holding the existing gas block in place. With that done, you can shim up the old gas block, and using a penny on the crown, you can push the barrel through the old gas block. Next, we can drill the gas port in the new gas block. This is the 2.2mm drill bit at about 30 degrees. Kind of eyeballed it, worked out fine, so do that. Once that's done, we go back to the hydraulic press and shim up the new gas block and push the barrel from the chamber end into the new gas block. Doing our best to align the gas ports in the gas block as well as the barrel. Yours may or may not be super tight. My tolerances ended up being that once I got the gas block into place, I could free spin it because I guess it was a little bit too big. That is good and bad, but I didn't have to worry about alignment until later. You may need to worry about it now, or you may be able to wait until later. Once that is done and in place, you're to the point of drilling the new barrel pin. Now, this was where I spent the most amount of time just trying to make sure I got it right, and I still got it wrong. You may or may not want to put the barrel back in the upper receiver for this, just so that you can try to sight down it and verify that your iron sights are going to be in the right place. But clamp it down as best you can and try to get it as level and along the same plane as possible. Once you get it on the drill press, everything as level as you can, use the 3mm drill bit to go through the pilot hole that is partially drilled on one side of the new gas block. It'll go through the gas block, through the barrel, and then finally out the other side of the gas block. This kind of needs to be done in one pass. Those 3 holes need to be married together because that's where your pin's going to be. Do your best, measure about a half dozen times, and then just go for it. Once that's done, it's not going to pin all the way, but go ahead and put the pin in place so that it stays. Do your best to verify that the gas ports are aligned. You can shine a light into the gas block and look down the barrel and see if you can see the light. If you can, then you're good, or you can use a bore scope and actually verify it. But at this point, you just ream out the hole, pin the gas block in place, and reassemble the upper. You're also going to need to install the retention system and the sling loop. So this is fairly straightforward. It's a fairly basic system. On the main plunger piece, put the sling swivel, the spring, push that through the side of the sight block, screw on the retaining nut, and align the slot so that you can drive in the roll pin that holds it in place. And then once that's done, you can spin it to lock and unlock the gas block on the front side. You may or may not need to file the sides of the lower handguard if it doesn't clear the new accessory rail. Mine just kind of barely did, and I tapped it in place and it went in. So if you need to, file it, but otherwise just assemble it and go test fire it. If it doesn't work, it's almost certainly the gas ports not aligning, because the gas port in the barrel is the exact same as it was before, and presumably that worked. So you may or may not need to fiddle with that, but otherwise you're done. Congratulations. So with that burned through, let's talk about some of the details and issues that I ran into. So specifically, working backwards, it took a minute to ream this sucker out so that the pin would actually go through sufficiently on both sides. It sticks out a little bit on both sides. It probably actually could be reamed a little more because I think it sticks out more on this side than it does on this side. But it's good enough, and it sticks out a little bit on both sides, so it's good enough for me. Getting the front sight block actually true and square 90 degrees to everything else is very difficult. You can get good enough pretty easy, but actually getting it true and square is not super easy. So mine's actually off by 1 or 2 degrees to the right. It's kind of annoying, but it is what it is. Originally, I was a bit worried about the hydraulic press part because that was new to me. It actually pressed off super easy. And the new gas block, I don't know if it's just the tolerances with my barrel and the new replacement gas block that I got, but once I got it on there, it was like spinning loose. And I can imagine if the tolerances went in the other way, it would have been much more difficult to deal with, but you may or may not have to deal with that, but keep that in mind. When you drill out the gas port, I would advise, after doing that, go ahead and install your actual gas system, your piston, into that slot, because it may or may not be super tight. There's probably going to be some residual jaggedness that you're going to need to file down from drilling the gas port in the gas block. File that down both on the upper and the lower side. Now, with all of that finally done, you get the glorious privilege of being able to install an antiquated piece of technology to the end of your firearm. Isn't that lovely? Very nice. I don't actually have a proper Taiwanese bayonet for this yet. Their old T65 bayonets they're primarily using are a little bit different than the US M7. They're a little bit longer. But with that done, we are one step closer to this project being done. Last but not least, I want to get into some excruciating detail about the gas blocks, because I had to learn entirely too much about these at entirely too much cost. So there are no less than 6 different gas blocks for the T91 style family. So there's the original T86, which did not have the accessory rail. There's the modified, I almost think it's a modified version of that gas block that comes in native to the Wolf A1 uppers. That obviously doesn't have the accessory rail or the bayonet lug. It's just rounded on the bottom, and it's a 2-piece design, so that you can drive out the dovetail if you just want to remove the front sight block altogether. That is useful for those who want to go full tactical and don't want the front sight block in the way. There's the actual military gas blocks, which are 16 millimeters. So you can actually see they step down around the barrel as compared to the Wolf military style ones, which are 18 millimeters. So that is, it's a little bit bigger. And I don't exactly know why, but it absolutely is. So even though this specifically says military style, this is not the same as the military one. Functionally, it is. It's a single piece unit, the same as the military, but it's not exactly the same because the barrel is not exactly the same. The Taiwanese use a 16 millimeter journal, whereas the Wolf A1 is an 18 millimeter journal. T91 also sells a .750 journal gas block. I actually bought one of those because I mismeasured and didn't understand what I was doing at the time, and that one does not work with the Wolf A1 barrel. It is entirely too big because 18 millimeters is less than .750. I'm not entirely sure why that one exists, other than for the guys who want to go through entirely too much trouble to modify a mid-length AR-15 barrel and like plug the existing gas port and drill a new one into the barrel, and like I don't see it. I don't understand why you do that. So I don't understand what market need there is for that particular gas block, but I've got one now, so yay. And then lastly, there's also the new version of the T91 gas block. I assume it's also 16 millimeters, but it actually has a folding front sight base. That was not officially announced, but so much as it was just featured on one of their new prototype advanced versions of their rifle that I happened to see. So there's entirely too much detail about gas blocks that don't really matter. So because if you have a Wolf A1 barrel, just get the military style 18 millimeter Wolf specific replacement gas block from T91 Tactical. That's the one you need, and the rest of them do not matter. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully this is helpful if you were embarking on a similar journey. I like the result. I will never use the Picatinny rail basically, but the bayonet lug absolutely is worth it, because of course it is, because I like bayonets. I'm not yet done with this project, obviously. I need a few more parts and to change out the stock and the rear sight, and I need to get the barrel cut down to 14.5, and I need to find a proper Taiwanese bayonet. So I may just skip to the end and make an overview once I get all that situated, but until then, this is where I am with this project currently, and I have made a serious step forward that I am very happy with that front sight block. Oh, and testing it did actually work totally fine. It was surprisingly painless. It worked perfectly. I didn't have to adjust anything. I think in this clip I'm running an H1 buffer. I usually run an H2, but I had it on a different lower than I usually do. I need to verify that it works with an H2, but presumably it will, because it ran perfectly fine with an H1, which the old gas block did with an H1 as well as with an H2. Ran a little bit better with the H2, so should be totally fine. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for tuning in. I hope this provides a little bit of clarity if you are embarking on a similar journey. Let me know if you found a way to do this demonstrably easier. Please let me know, or let other folks who are interested in this know, because it would be greatly appreciated. I don't plan on ever doing this particular task again, but if I did, I would want to know how to do it easier. All right, later, my dudes.